In this video, I'm going to share with you my Kundalini awakening, spiritual awakening, self-realization, enlightenment experience. Before I get into it, I just want to give you a side note that I've never shared this before with anyone. And in fact, I haven't even really thought about it myself since it's happened. It happened about 2 years ago, probably a little bit more than 2 years ago. And even since it happened, like I said, I haven't almost given it one single thought. I haven't remembered it. It's kind of, we can get into it later in the video, but it's kind of like, it's not that I'm not capable of remembering things. It's just that I don't remember, that I don't, not interested in remembering things, kind of thing. So this video is going to help kind of, I guess, recall some memories. It's going to feel like it's very kind of scrambled all over the place. Hopefully not so much. But like I said, this is the first time that I'm just kind of recollecting my thoughts and trying to organize them into some sort of timeline that may be of benefit for someone like you who's searching for Kundalini and spiritual awakening and enlightenment, self-realization. Perhaps there's already some sort of process that you're undergoing that maybe you're looking for some self-assurance, or maybe you think you're going crazy and you need someone else to kind of share their experience and make you feel like you aren't going crazy. You're not going crazy, by the way. You're looking for answers, and perhaps just, I don't know, hearing someone else's story or their experience is of benefit to you. So let's get into it. So I guess some backstory is that I have had no interest or experience with spirituality and religion. Though that stuff has kind of not been on my radar. Well, I was never kind of identified as someone who's spiritual or someone who's religious. Really, I didn't identify with anything, actually. And that's probably of a benefit. After what happened took place, then I was able to see that that's actually a benefit when it comes to self-realization, enlightenment, is identifying with things. So yeah. So I don't have all the terminology and the vocabulary that someone who's, been into spirituality, reading books and scriptures and listening to teachers their entire life. I don't have any of that. So where do I start? Well, there's a lot of stuff at the start that may be interesting, may not be interesting, but I feel like it might drag on the video too long. It's already going to be a long one, so hopefully you got some coffee, tea, whatever you like to drink, or some snacks. Or maybe you don't need any of that stuff and you can just simply sit and listen to someone talk for almost 2 hours about, some sort of experience that just about the entire world would mark as crazy or nuts, that they've lost their mind. But it is what it is, right? So where can I start? Start with basically at the time there's COVID and a lot of craziness happening. There's a lot of things falling away from me in my life. 2 weeks into COVID, business basically just crumbling. Lost 90% of my business in 2 weeks of COVID. So that started crumbling. I started another one literally a week after. I I still had it. It just wasn't, it wasn't the same business. It was 10% of what we were doing and who we were serving. But I started something else, and that seemed to be really cool for me. Nice creative outlet, starting something new. And I just love the incubation of businesses, the birthing of a business, the creation stage. So this really was really good for me, and very relaxed, and had some money in the bank. So I wasn't strapped for cash, and kind of just relax, and seemed like everybody else was kind of, taking time off or going crazy at the stores, trying to, fight for toilet paper and in lines and stuff like that. But that was all kind of going on. And what else was going on? Some relationship stuff with my wife, and she was going through a really tough time. At the time, her mom was sick with cancer, and I'm seeing that she's really contracted and really getting closed. And I'm seeing certain things in our relationship just kind of come to the surface to be seen. I'm seeing it. And I'm noticing with this business that I'm very relaxed. This new business that I was creating, very relaxed, and things were kind of unfolding naturally. And I kind of would just go for a walk, an hour walk, or go for a run. And it's always kind of had the ability to see my thoughts and have this higher awareness that could watch actions, and watch the body, and watch the thoughts, and watch the emotions, and be present. But now it's always there now at this point, always there. And it was just watching all these thoughts, and this kind of feeling of, okay, I'm not even thinking. I'm not creating these ideas. These ideas are just coming up, and everything's kind of ideas coming up, and words are kind of being slapped together, and there's that idea, and then kind of going back and putting it on the computer, and very obvious that I'm not doing any of this stuff. It's kind of just happening. It's just kind of flowing through me. And but it felt really good. I was just in this very creative zone, and very effortless, very natural, very flowing, joyful, loving, passionate experience. And that kind of continued, and kind of practice, let's say yoga stretching, but not I've never watched any sort of informational video, or not educational, instructional, any sort of instructional video. So I just kind of stretch, and feels good. And that's kind of always been throughout my entire life, is people, I guess my family, thought I was kind of weird, just feeling the need to move my body in certain ways and stretch, and I just feel good. And noticing that when that's happening, extremely present and tuned into a stillness, a silence, a peace, that's there, that's in me, and it's very, very joyful. So this is in the summer, kind of end of summer, and I'm practicing these, different stretches and stuff like that. Just moving my body. I would never actually say I'm trying to do yoga and do certain things, just moving my body. And noticing that, yeah, this awareness is it's there all the time. It's all the time there. And I'm watching everything from this awareness. And basically I was there, I don't know what I was doing. I was probably on the ground there doing some glute bridges or something, 20 repetitions. And I kind of lay on my back. And as I'm laying on my back, I'm just breathing and really So I was noticing with the yoga stretches that I was doing that I could really just breathe and almost like feel like I'm that breath going into certain areas of my body, kind of going up the spine, down, and different, almost like I can send that breath to different areas and just relax a muscle and just release and surrender. And I remember just after some glute bridges, I'm there like laying down on the ground and just had this question, like that awareness is there. And just this question is like, what's aware? What is aware? And there was no like answer as a voice, but it was just like a huge opening, a huge like explosion, a huge explosion. And it felt like I was just expanded totally out of the body at that point in these like kind of yoga things. I was never felt like I was kind of like in the body. I was always feeling like I'm outside and watching the body. The body's in the awareness. The body's in me. Or I've basically just become one with the breath, and that's the only thing that's like in focus is that breath. Where then this just expanded and it just felt very light, and this love that's infinite, just unconditional, very nurturing. And it felt like it was just holding me, like it raised me up and just was holding me like a blanket of love just around me, just comforting me. And there's just this deep sense of like, okay, it's okay. Okay. It's okayness. And this feeling of like, that's so natural. That's where I need to be. That's where I need this feeling of like, I'm at home. Everything's okay. I'm at home. I'm safe. Everything's going to be okay. And I didn't want to like, this is happening, but you're not thinking it. It's like, it's beyond your thoughts. It's beyond your thoughts. And I don't even know how long that lasted. It might have been a couple seconds. It might have been a couple hours. I have no idea. But I know that it felt like I was way up. And then it kind of felt like, boom, like almost like coming back into the body, like dropping down. And I noticed immediately that my entire energy just changed. My voice changed. It was very soft, very soothing, very calm, very relaxed. My whole energy was very, very soft, very still. Before it was kind of, not like some people like where they're always kind of look like they're on 6 Red Bulls and they're jumping, but always kind of feeling like that. Like I felt like always kind of in movement, but this was just like I didn't want to move. Very relaxed, very like, how like, people smoke weed and they kind of feel like they're melting the couch kind of feel. This kind of, it had that feeling, but like none of the negative effects. Very just calm, zened out. And even like I remember with my kids and around dinner that night, it was like nothing could faze me. Nothing could shake me. Just this inner peace, this inner silence, this inner stillness where I was just like, man, it doesn't even matter what happens right now. Nothing matters. There could be some gigantic crane with a big ball and smash the side of the house, and I'm just going to sit here at the dinner table. It's okay. Nothing mattered. This is unconditional love. And it's like, it's not a love that I experienced before. This love is felt totally different than the kind of the human love, the relationship love that we kind of experience. This was different. This was a different feeling. Unconditional love, unconditional peace, unconditional happiness. It was like, and unconditional freedom. It was like all those like 4 things kind of wrapped up in one. And I was just left very like felt like I was floating, light, very light and airy, worry-free, stress-free, nothing mattered. And just kind of went along with my day. Or actually, like, not my day, but like it happened, like that kind of opening happened in the afternoon. So it was around like dinner time that night, interacting, putting kids to bed. Just remember I was super relaxed and reading them books and putting them to bed. And even certain things they used to, putting them to bed would be like an hour and a half process to get up and out into their bedrooms. And there's got 3 kids and they're goof around and stuff. So it's a whole production. But I remember like this night, it was like, didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. And it was okay. Just fully present. And that seemed to last for a couple of days. And like that night, it was like, what happened? What is this? And like the initial experience was, because it felt like it was up and then it came down. It was like, at the time, I'm like, I don't know what that was. The only thing that I can say is, I remember before I told you I'm not religious or spiritual, I was like, that's gotta be God. That's God. There's like this kind of inner knowing that I'm like, that all I can say is like, that's God. That felt, it felt very, very like maternal, very soothing. This at-homeness, this okayness, and this unconditional love. And I remember the day after, I'm like, still like feeling that. I'm still, the thing is like, it felt like it didn't go away. It felt like almost like I was getting used to the feeling. At first I thought like, oh, it was up and then it was down. But I'm like, I'm not back to normal. This has changed me. My voice is softer, more relaxed. So it wasn't like, it was like, oh, that was just like a split second and then coming back. It was kind of almost like I was getting used to it. And I remember I was like, before I lose like this feeling, I'm like, I need to write like in my phone, like, okay, like, what is this? Like, I just want to express this love. And I'm just kind of like writing down a bunch of words of what this love, how I'm interpreting it, which was kind of silly because it's like my mind is trying to make sense of something that my heart is feeling. And my heart's just it's at the time, it's just growing. It's just expanding. And I'm writing down like, like trust and mercy and forgiveness and kindness and softness and gentleness, all these different things to just like, again, like almost like if I lose it or like whatever this is, or just to remember. And I remember at that time, literally like, it was like maybe even like 3 or 4 days. I'm like, okay, like I was never like a believer or anything before. And now I'm like, this is like my direct experience. And there was just this, it's not like I said it or anything. It was almost like a feeling where I'm like, I'm now serving that, like whatever you want, I'm serving. And at that same time too, there was this kind of like this inner knowing that said like, okay, I want to express those qualities, all those qualities, how I'm experiencing God. I want to express those qualities. That's how I want to be in the world, is like that. And it was this feeling of, again, like whatever my life or whatever at that point, it's like, now it's like, okay, now this is I'm now serving you. This is kind of just surrendering to at that time to God. And it was very intense for like the first 4 days. The initial was very intense, then it was 4 days, and then that kind of, like I said, it didn't leave me. So it was almost like it was like kind of like it was getting used to it, getting used to that, like that energy, that energy, and that openness and that expansiveness, and that just like feeling of like surrendered. And then my heart just started to just explode, just get huge. It was huge. And this love was, it was like, it was growing. It was just, the only word would just be infinite and unconditional. Because now this love was just for everyone. Before it was like my family, and I love people, I love helping them. But now it was like, everywhere I was looking was just love everywhere. It felt like I was a gigantic heart. and just literally like everywhere was just love. And it was like, there's like no distance between me and anybody else. It was just love, and they were love. And it was just a oneness of this love. Homeless people on the street. I remember, and I was just like, okay, well, like I'm grabbing a coffee, getting a gift card. I just constantly just wanting to love. It was like I couldn't do anything else other than love. And it was beautiful. It was like this love for anything I was looking at, seeing these like commercials and stuff on the TV, and you're feeling it, pictures in my home, feeling it, the kids feeling it, but other people's kids feeling it, other people, just another dad taking their kid to the park, feeling that, just this shared, this oneness, this unity, seeing love everywhere I looked. And that was like 2 weeks walking around like that, where I was like, okay, this is like what people probably are experiencing on like MDMA or like ecstasy. And like, this is crazy, because this is like 2 weeks of this where it's like, I don't take anything. This is natural. And it's like going to bed like this, waking up like this. And it's so intense. It's bringing me to tears, just like tears just running from my eyes at some point, just spontaneously, just driving, and like tears are just running down. And I'm like, what is this? But at the same time, I'm like, I'm giving you the kind of the commentary after. At the time, I'm not like, what is this? You're just shocked. It's like there's no mind, no thinking process. It's just, everything is just, it's like an intuitive knowing. It's beyond the mind. It's beyond the mind. This is like a matter of the heart, where the mind it knows nothing of the heart. And so it's not like I was like, oh, well, what's going to happen next, or how's this, and trying to analyze it. You just going with it. I'm just like, okay, just going with it. So I'm feeling this expansion. I'm being even more creative with this business that I'm building at that time. It's like an online course, a coaching course for business coaching, branding. And I'm having even more like creative expression in it, even just more imaginative, and just having so much fun with it, where there's not even, I could even care if the thing didn't even launch, because I was just having so much fun with it. And this feeling of just like expanding. And I remember I was like, at that time, I'm trying to think, was it that time or after? It was like, oh yeah. So at that time, my heart's expanding. I'm I'm becoming big. Like I am that other person. I'm the space. I'm like walking around. Like even when I just drive my car on the street, it didn't even feel. It felt like my energetic body was like the neighborhood coming through. And it sounds crazy. Like I said, it's like you got to be thinking nuts as I'm driving down the street. Just this constant feeling of just loving like the entire neighborhood as I'm coming down it, just in my car. But it like obviously the body is just in my car, but it felt like energetically like just this massive wave just going down the street, literally just feeling connected to everyone. Just felt like I can just give them life, give them life, give them love. And this energy kept on going bigger and bigger and bigger. Like neighborhood, and then like the city, and then like the country, and then like the world. It was massive to the point where it was literally like, it was the universe. It was cosmic. It was the universe. And then it was, at that time, the realization is like, then it's all within me. Everything, everybody, everything is in me as that energy, that awareness. And it was just like, oh, I can't even explain it. Just the word infinite. That's why I got to use the infinite word, because that's what it is. Just this infinite power where I just felt infinite, so much power, like just being hooked up to the source, like the source of the universe, like the source, just like plugged in. And I'm just again, when I'm like talking about, like, I got to use this body to explain, but yes, the body, but also like energetically, which the energy body felt so much infinite. The energy body was infinite. The power that was running through that energy body was infinite. And it was like, I remember at the time, like, I don't know what, not too much into Marvel comics or whatever, but it was as if there's like a superpower or a super hero that was like, had lightning and like electricity. It literally felt like that. Like there's just tons of voltage of power. And just this kind of like inner knowing of invincibility, where I was like, man, I wasn't afraid of dying, wasn't afraid of anything. Invincibility, just this feeling of like immortality, invincibility. But at this time, like, it's not feeling like the body, it's feeling like just the energy. Like it was like a shift where no longer any identification with the body, just now just becoming this energy that was invincible, infinite, immortal, and everywhere, just everywhere, everywhere. And it seemed like that's when there was like, it seemed like just after that, that's when there was like a shift where it was like, okay, it was so obvious that it's like, hey, I'm not this body. I'm this energy that's now everywhere. Then that became very obvious. That realization became very obvious. And I remember that like day looking at a picture of my wife and I. It was like a wedding picture, and looking at like me in the picture and being like, clearly like, that's not me. It was weird. It was like spooky. It was like, that's not me. Looking at it, and it was like I was looking at someone else, like a stranger. Like a stranger. Like it was like I was like in someone else's home and picked up their wedding photo. It's like, who's that? Like, who's that? That's how like that shift was. That it was no longer me. That it was like this identification was just now just like this universal energy. And then yeah, that was clear at that point. So, and that didn't last too long. I think it was like that day, because then I was going for a walk, either that day or like the next day after that. And I'm walking around. I used to like go for walks, like after dinner or whatever. If I get the kids in the bed around 7, go for a walk, sunset or whatever, just for an hour. And I noticed like the mind was just super still, like no thoughts happening, super still, and super like the space was just, it's like, it's as if I was like a snow globe, and I'm now the snow globe, and I'm now watching the body in the snow globe. So it's like it shifted from being in the body to then now the snow globe and watching the whole thing. And feeling still like that infinite power, that the feeling of invincibility, that seemed to kind of like mellow out or not be as much, because like something new, like a new kind of like flavor or experience kind of started happening, was this super expansiveness while walking. And while walking, everything was still and silent. It was like you could drop like a pin and hear it. But I'm like in the neighborhood, I'm like, it's like the silence that permeated everything else, where I'm like, wow, my mind's silent, but it feels like, is everyone silent? Like it almost felt like you're watching like a movie and you're being in the movie, and then like someone hit the mute button and you're like, you can't hear anything. Couldn't hear anything at all. And I'm walking around like that, and everything just is like popping way more, so much more vivid. And I've done like mushrooms before, and it's more vivid than that. Very like so much texture and this aliveness, and like it's way more dramatic because like you can't hear anything, but almost like this kind of like feeling like so silent, but it's like I could feel it, and it was like vroom, vroom, vroom. And it almost felt like it was like that was like a universal like heartbeat or a universal breath that was like that I was sharing with like the trees and the plants and whatever I was looking at. It was just like just permeating through me as well as everything else. It was just like a current of like energy or a breath or a heartbeat or something like that. But it was now like it was one with everything else. And I'm walking, and I remember at times probably people thought I was like really nuts. I'm like just looking at their tree, and you're just like hypnotized by it. And it was like I've had experience, well, not experience, but like I've had times where it's again like before it's like I'm not like commenting on like, oh, that's a beautiful tree, and trying to tell a story how most people do. But it was very like, it felt like very unfiltered, very raw. Like you're directly, like there was something removed between the tree. Like there was nothing in between like me and the tree. It was just, you wouldn't even label it as the tree. It was beyond words, or without the removal of the words, the removal of the thinking. And it's just, and you're just constantly the best way to kind of, you're all you're seeing is beauty. You're feeling love I was feeling love inside me, this infinite love, and seeing the beauty. But at the same time, there's an instantaneous realization that love that I'm feeling is also the love of the tree or the dog or the house, whatever I'm looking at, the clouds. It's the same thing. It's like everything is just made of this love that I'm feeling. And you're just feeling this constant oneness with it. And it's just so beautiful. And it was like everything was just shimmery. And it was like at that time everything looked already like it already looks beautiful at golden hour, like for sunset time, right? But this was just like next level, and it was like I'm walking around, it's bringing me to tears, just tears are just running down my face of how beautiful everything is and how much love that I'm feeling. There's just this, and joy, and there's just bliss, and this feeling of this, just this energy of this, how much life, that you are the life that's in everything else. So it's this ecstasy, you're just ecstatic, full of this energy. And it's like now it's like the awareness is just huge. But at the same time, it's getting like the experience from this body walking down the road, down the street, looking at everything. And from that perspective, everything looks so beautiful, and everything is shimmering and almost like it's dancing. It was so weird. It was like the energy was just dancing. Like the tree was a tree, but it was like there's a certain kind of recognition that it was almost like showing off. It was just shimmery. It was showing off just how beautiful. It's just radiating this beauty. And there was just the awareness of just seeing it all. And as the more I'm seeing it, the more I'm just watching, the more the tears are coming, the more beautiful it is, the more love you're feeling, the more joy. And remember, it was like just kind of like a path near my house, near a park. And I remember I just like kind of just like, I couldn't walk anymore. Just literally just stopped. I thought I was going to fall over. I basically, if I fell over, I would have just let it happen, because I just stood there and like, a good kind of way to put it was like, it's like you're just drunk, like super intoxicated, like drunk off of love. Sounds crazy to say. And I remember I was just looking at everything. It was like the sunset was over there, clouds, these purple and pinky, orangey clouds were in the sky. Everything just looked amazing, super vibrant. Like grass was super green. Everything was just popping out, and just feeling this like, vroom. And then at that point, it was like everything just kind of like it was like a solar explosion or something behind everything, like light just radiated out of everything. Or it was like everything just kind of dropped. Everything kind of just dropped for a second, and all you saw was this just bright light behind everything. I don't know what the best way to describe it. But there was this intuitive knowing that everything is that same energy that's behind everything. Everything, all the infinite expressions, the clouds, the grass, the birds, the squirrels, the trees, the park, everything, those are infinite expressions of this one source. And that one source at this time revealed itself as being nothing other than divine, nothing other than divinity. There was just this feeling of sacredness, holiness, godliness. Like I said before, like I didn't identify as with any religions or anything like that, but it was just this knowing for someone that wasn't into scripture or wasn't into spirituality. Someone is just this knowing, like, this is holy, this is sacred, this is godly, this is divine. These are kind of like these feelings, this kind of this intuition, this inner knowing that was instant. And it was just, it just radiated. And then at that point, I'm there just standing. I'm like, just shocked by it. Couldn't move. And then the tears are even coming even more. I remember it's like just covering my shirt. We're just running from I've never cried like that. It was just running as if like my eyes were just fountains, and it was just running down my face on my shirt. And it was just so beautiful. I'm just like, this is so divine. Like I'm commentating for the video. But at the time, you can't say anything. There's no words. My mind's not even there. It's gone. It's gone. This thing just blew my mind. Literally, it was like before even going for the walk, it was like my mind wasn't there, just silent. But now it's just taking everything in, and there's this, and then it was like as if it's like God gives you God's eyes to see God. I'm just looking, and I'm seeing God everywhere, right? Like, not how people kind of put their projection of God, some sort of Santa Claus figure. It's just this, it's like a divine energy. An energy. And you're just seeing it like directly. And I'm just there, whoa. And I remember I went back home. Like I probably just like stood there probably in this path on a park, like in a park for I don't know how long. Not too long because it wasn't like dark when I went home, but I kept on going. And then at that time, I remember my youngest guy, he's 2 years old. He woke up, or he needed to be rocked back to sleep. And I'm in his bed, or I'm in his room, sitting with him in the rocking chair. And I'm like, this feeling like, oh my God, like I'm holding God. I'm holding God, and I'm looking at like, he's got like 3 beautiful pictures, like they're family pictures in his room. One's of like me and my wife, and then my wife and my daughter, and then another one, maybe my wife and my daughter and my other son. I'm looking at these pictures, rocking him, like I'm holding God. I'm like looking, and like, again, just almost like the picture before when I was looking, like I wasn't identifying as, before, remember I told you with my wedding picture, there was no identification. It was like, who's that? Now with the family pictures, the 3 family pictures that I see all the time, every day when I rock them to bed, I'm looking at these pictures and I'm like, there's no identification with the family. There's just a knowing that is God in all 3 of these pictures. And what I'm holding, rocking in the rocking chair, this is God as well. And then there's just this feeling of sacredness, holiness, divinity, just bliss just running through me. And at that time, I'm still rocking maybe for like another half an hour. And I remember at that time, I started having that realization where it's like, there's no me and God. Like this divinity that I'm feeling is in me. It's the same feeling. There's no separation here from me and my son, the baby that I'm rocking. There's no separation from me and these photos. As I'm looking at that's God, but then it starts kind of like almost like coming from the background, like at first it was like, that's God, like this feeling, that's God, but then also it's like, that's me as God. That's, whereas like the energy, right? The energy might trigger some people when they hear that type of thing because it sounds very egoic. But I'm saying is like, you are as well. And then it was this intuitive knowing that there is only God. There is nothing but God. And God is everything. Everything. And it's that feeling, that knowing, that awareness, that consciousness that now that I'm fully identified with, or I guess fully realized, is that's what I'm perceiving in that body, and that's what I'm perceiving in everything. It's all the same divine consciousness. That's also infinite love and infinite peace and infinite joy and infinite freedom, all at the same time. And you're just getting like, just all that stuff wrapped up. And then that kind of like carried on for another, let's say 5 days, where I'm just walking around and kind of everything was just so, it was kind of like, kind of go back and forth, like where it was like, but it was kind of fun because it almost like, it was kind of like, what's the word? At that time, it was almost fun to have that separation of like, that's God and here's me. Because there was almost like this feeling of, what's the word? Oh, like very devotional, very like, it was good with that separation because it was a love for God. But then it would kind of like, the more I kind of just like I would stare at it or whatever it is, just get absorbed in it. Then it was like, that's me. Like, but I wouldn't say that's me. You just have this feeling of this, it's not even a feeling, just this kind of like I-ness. Like, it wouldn't say that's me. It would just be like a sense of I. And that went on for like 5 days. So whatever I was driving around or whatever, I'm just like looking at God everywhere, everything, the plants. And I could just go for a walk and just stop on someone's grass and just like look. And even, it's like even now, like if I just let it kind of happen, it's just like, and I'm totally, there's, again, like we'll get into that after if you still stick around, but it's like that sense of I is just, it's like, it's kind of like gone. So yeah, so at that point it was like a very much like, okay, first it was like, I'm not the body. I'm now like this energy, this consciousness that's in everything. Even before that, it was almost like an identification with, okay, I'm love, I'm pure love. And this love is now, okay, this love is this loving energy, loving consciousness. And then it was like, okay, now then realizing, okay, now I'm seeing God and everything. Okay, now I am God. There's nothing other than God. Everyone is God. Everything is God. Godly. If you don't like the word God, godly or divine, sacred, holy, whatever you want to say. It's just a word. But there's this feeling where those words are best described for that kind of feeling, that innate inner knowing. And that kind of lasted for like 5 days, and that kind of then starts blending in with it's all me. Everything is me. There's only me. Because there was like that came from the background where it's just a me. And that was very obvious because at that time, I'm trying to think here. At that time, I was just sitting out. It was like 5 days after the whole, what do you want to call it? God realization. 5 days after sitting out on just my porch and just kind of just being, again, just this silence and just like nothing was happening. It was like if there was something that popped in the mind, it's like that was seen. That one, there's like literally nothing happening. And it was like this silence got really, it sounds crazy to say it, but the silence got really loud, very loud. And I remember it was just like, there's no difference between this inner silence and this outer silence. It was just like, there was no inner and outer. It was just like, sound like I was like in like some turbine or like in some like power plant, but the power plant would be like the power plant for like the entire universe because it was loud. And then you're just like, you're now like, at first you start out just in there's the body, and then now I'm not the body, now I'm the energy, and the energy is now they're just going. And it started off as that silence, and then it was just like an explosion, where I would have to say it was like an explosion of like a sun, a star. It was this explosion. It was like, it just basically like scattered me. It scattered me where it's just, and there's no words to describe it. It was just like I was everywhere. And then, not like when I say it scattered me, like my body into pieces. No, I'm not saying that. It's just like, it's like that energy just exploded. And then after that, then it was really crazy because it was like everywhere I was looking, like clouds, grass, everything was me. And it wasn't like, that's me, there I am, I'm over there too. It wasn't like that. It was just this I-ness, this oneness, this I-ness that was there. And it was like I couldn't move. It's like I couldn't function with it. And that lasted for, again, like another couple days, maybe even like for another 5 days. Didn't matter like what I was looking at. It was weird. Like even just being with my family is like, what family? It's just me helping people like in my business at the time. But I wasn't at that time, is again, because I didn't really create this other business yet. There's this like incubation, or what's the word? Like an isolation period where I didn't really see too many people. So there was this one, I think maybe did like a Zoom meeting with someone at that time. And it was hard. It was hard to like interact. It was hard to interact because it was like this feeling of like I was just talking to myself. Like there's nobody else, just talking to myself. And it was very obvious that there's only one. There's only one. Everything is God, and there's only God, and there's no opposites. And that seemed to like last like wherever I was looking, plants, trees, clouds. And it felt weird, as if you like look and you're like, okay, that's my hand. That's my hand, and there's my other hand. And I'm looking there, I'm like, the cloud felt just as much as my hand as my hand. Just as much. And I remember like went for a walk, and it was just like, just stuff like that was spontaneous. Or I'm just like, one morning I just started cleaning up garbage at this random park because it felt like it was like littering on me. Like the park was me. It was this garbage all over. I just started picking up this garbage. I didn't pick up garbage before, but like this time, like I grabbed a garbage bag and I went to go pick up all this garbage kind of thing. Before I'd see garbage, I'd pick it up and throw it back in the trash or walk over in the trash. But now it's like turned into like a cleanup crew here. I don't know why. It was just very spontaneous of why that was. And I was going down the lake, just being by the lake, just so expansive because I'm just looking at the lake and I am the lake and I'm feeling like the ripples in it and I'm feeling those ripples in me. Like I'm just one with those ripples. There's just no boundary between like me and whatever the object is, kind of thing. So it's like 5 days of like just being one with everything, just unity, just consciousness, and then now it's just like this, like kind of this realization started kind of deepening, or it felt like kind of like maybe this more understanding of it or something. Because like I said, everything almost seemed like very like instantaneous at the start. It's kind of like, oh, what's aware? And there's like, and then it just kind of like deepened, or it like got a chance for something like the processing to kind of like understand it or something like that. It's very instantaneous at the start, but then it's just like everything was kind of going. And I guess I forgot to mention too, like as my heart's expanding, like just it feels like I'm just this pure energy. Let me come back. At that time where like the heart and is expanding, I'm feeling like this infinite power. It's also feeling like energetically, like I'm rising up. Energetically, I'm rising up, and almost like there's like this feeling like I'm weaving. And ever since that first time where I said like, what's aware? And then felt like it was held. and then something kind of like it held up, and then it also felt like something dropped down. It was like out of the body and then back into the body. It felt like there was like this way more of a feminine energy in me. So much that it was like, it changed everything. Like, again, like I just said, like, kind of like whatever's happening is happening. And I'm just surrendering to like this whole thing and just going with it. Like, felt like moving in different kind of ways. I was taking a lot more baths. Not really one for baths, but I got into taking baths and it was just like relaxing in the bath and wanted to put stuff in the bath, and got into making doing candles, and then wanting to make candles, and then wanting to make soaps with my daughter, soap and candles, and a lot more like kind of this feminine creativity started like really coming into me. And I'd say like I was very balanced before with the feminine and the masculine energy, and understanding that we've got both energies in us. And a lot of people, they suppress the opposite. But definitely feeling like this is rising. This energy is rising. And basically at that time where I was telling you, it was just felt like everything just radiated this one light, this one source of energy just shone forth, just radiated out of everything. It was very obvious to me that everything is an infinite expression of this one source. It was at that time where I was telling you, it was a very sacred and holy and divine feeling, that it felt like right there, it was like those energies in me, I could feel them, like the masculine and the feminine energy, boom, united. And it was like at that point when it shone forth, it was like, that was like almost like it was like it was like a marriage, like a wedding, like a ceremony, because it seemed like that was like the kind of like the climax of it, the peak, because it felt like energetically like I was rising, or as the energy rising, almost like intertwining, and then boom, and then everything just shone forth. And I remember I was telling you, like, it was almost like everything was kind of like dancing. It was like the energy was dancing, and the awareness was able to see that energy dancing and seeing the beauty of the dance, seeing the life that's permeating through everything, that's giving everything life, the energy that's allowing everything to express itself. It was like there was this full expression for the awareness, which was so expansive at that time. And it was like a sacred, holy, divine celebration. Like it was life celebrating life. And it was like right at that time where it was like boom, like a merge, a marry, a union, to the point where maybe after, maybe a thought came in or something like that, or maybe like I don't know, maybe I'm just saying it right now, where I was like, okay, I've been married, I've been to weddings, like that's union, that's the true marriage, that's the true union. That was a holy marriage of the two masculine and feminine energies within me. Yeah, when I say within me, I'm not saying like within my body, like within my energetic body, me as awareness, that was experienced, and it was very much like a celebration of life. It was a celebration of life, and yeah, so I just wanted to add that in there. And then the 5 days, I guess, of feeling like I'm just everything and everything is me. I could just sit. Like I can still now, I just sit and just kind of like look at stuff and just bliss out, basically. that see it's happening, that 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 basically just this feeling of completion, contentment, like, I don't want to say the word like it's done, but it did. I mean, it definitely felt like, okay, it's complete. Like, so much to the point that after that happened, there's this completion. There's this feeling of like no motivation to do anything. No motivation, nothing. I lost like all my motivation. Because at that point, it was like almost this kind of like isolation period where this other business kind of like dropped off. This other thing didn't start. No job, nothing. And before I always wanted to help people. Now I'm like, it's just me. It's just me. Who is there to help? There is like, there are no others. It was a weird feeling, but it was just this contentment for no reason. It still is this contentment for no reason, this completion for no reason, this fulfillment for no reason. It's here. It's now. But at that time, after like those 5 days, it really like kind of stuck in, and it kind of took a little bit of time. And that's where it's like what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And then I was like, well, do I like finish that coaching business that I was kind of in the middle of? It wasn't really in the middle of it. Maybe like 85% done. Needed some final touches or something like that. Do I do that? Do I like start like sharing this with other people and kind of like, I don't know, helping them? Do I like become like some spiritual teacher or guru or something like that? I had no idea. I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know any like these words or anything. And like, how do you explain what seems like total craziness to someone else? But then I started actually not talking about it, not too much, to my brother, his friend, someone else. And I can start feeling like it would happen like spontaneous. And then I was kind of like testing, I'm still kind of like testing it out kind of thing, where it's like, when I just like let myself just like do nothing and become super still, it's like they were noticing that their mind was becoming super still and they were being absorbed in it. Because I'm perceiving that, well, it's not perceiving, but like I'm knowing that we're one. So my mind stills, their mind stills, and they're saying, it's like, I can't think when you do that. And then I was feeling like certain energy kind of like in my mind or up here, third eye kind of area, and they're feeling it at the same time, and they're noticing, and whatever I'm pointing at or like talking to them about, they're feeling it in them. I was like, oh, this is kind of like, this is kind of crazy. And then they started having some mystical experiences. My brother started having these feelings of like the oneness and the love and kind of floating above his body or being more expansive type of thing. I was like, okay, well, this is something's happening here. So I don't know what it was. It's started looking into it after, of like some sort of transmission or activation happening. And I noticed that like people I can feel that they're more peaceful like when they're around me. If they're like really closed off, then it seems to have actually the opposite effect. I feel like they're almost like reflecting more of them at them, or they're just like seeing more of themselves, that they don't want to really deal with that. And they're kind of like, almost like get the kind of like intuitive feeling that they're like, don't want to be around this person because they're triggering me too much, or they're making me feel parts of me that I'm suppressing, or they're reflecting me back at myself or something like that. So that's that kind of started happening. And then, I mean, you can see from this channel, it's kind of like, hey, well, I was into business coaching, life coaching stuff, just wanting to help people transform their lives. And then now I'm starting to put out this stuff, which is more about spirituality, but I've got no background in spirituality or anything like that, but to learn words or, you know, I don't have any of those like Hindu terminologies or any sort of, there's just stuff that people would say. But there's an experience that if you're open to it, if you're receptive enough, that there's an experience that can be created that seems to unfold. I can feel it intuitively when it's happening. And then it's just kind of felt like that was kind of like a side note there with all that stuff, but the activation and stuff. So let's kind of get back after the that kind of feeling of that oneness, that unity. There's a direct perception that like the consciousness, the awareness, the divinity that I am, it's also in you. And that's also, and you are also in the divinity. So there's this wholeness, this completeness, the formless that I am is the formless that's in you. And the you, the body, that body, this body, everything else is in the formless, and yet beyond both. And it's like that for everything. The finite, the infinite that I am is the infinite that's in you. The infinite is in that finite body. And that finite body is in this infinite consciousness, infinite awareness, and yet beyond that as well. So once those kind of realizations started kind of happening, then I totally knew that I can't talk to anybody about this because everything is paradoxical. Everything doesn't make sense at all. Everything doesn't make sense at all. But it doesn't make sense in the mind. You literally need to have that experience in order to understand it. And then I started kind of actually reading some stuff or hearing, and everything kind of, I mentioned to one other person, they said, oh, yeah, you should read the Bhagavad Gita. I'm like, I listened to it on Audible and I'm like, this is my direct experience. Picked up the Bible. This is my, I'm understanding things experientially. It's like a living the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita. It's like it's living inside me, that experience. And the way things are written in those two books, it's all symbology. It's all symbolic for the experience that's to be had as that ascension, as that higher consciousness, as the energy raises in vibration and frequency. That becomes your experience, where it's like very clear. It's clear as day. And then you're left with this clarity. You're left with this clarity, but and at the same time, as it continued to mature, there's no sense of, it's like that I feeling. It's that sense of I, it's like it's gone. But everything's happening on its own. And that was actually another realization somewhere there in between, like infinite power and oneness, is this realization that you're seeing everything's just happening on its own. Everything's just happening on its own. There is no doer. Everything's happening on its own. And everything is perfect. It's perfection. It's perfection. And it's like the mind can't see that perfection. The mind veils that perfection, that divine perfection. But like I said, is when that filter was no longer there. It's just divinity seeing the perfection of divinity. And that's all that there is. And then probably won't share it in this video. It's getting kind of long. There's other realizations that's like, I'm this nothingness, nothing, and everything comes from nothing, and nothing is not really nothing. It's no thing, but it's pure potential, which is the potential of this divine. It's a divine potential that then from that unmanifest form, it's now manifest. And it's this expression of the divine. That's the manifestation right here, right now. It's here. And that awareness, that consciousness, it's here. It's here. It's right now. That God, source, it's here. It's now. It's right there. You are it. You are it. It's just realizing it. It's realizing it. That's why it's called a realization. It's not like you're finding something or discovering something. It's realizing it's already here. So then everything now is just, it's natural. It's like I'm meditative all the time right now. Literally thoughts happen here and there. They always seem to be like kind of like creative thoughts of what to create or what to do. There's no narrative though. There's no narrative. I didn't have too much of the narrative before either way. So I have like these long gaps of like having no mind and, I just went for a walk and like an hour, I didn't even think about myself or anything like that. Most people are thinking about themselves, but now I can just sit and just be still. And if you just sit and tune in, you'll find your mind becoming still as well. So it's this kind of state, natural state. I wouldn't even call it natural state because like a state kind of implies that there's kind of like a start and an end to it, or like a boundary, right? United States, like a bunch of states, right? Or state comes and goes. It's like this is just, it's not the natural state. It's just your nature, right? It's just my nature. And it's just meditative. There's no mind, no thoughts. Everything is spontaneously arising, content, joyful, fulfilled, blissful, peaceful, relaxed, and everything is seen. Every little condition that comes up, it's seen. And it just feels very, very natural, that's where kind of going through it, like, some of those experiences that I was saying, feeling like, I'm feeling electrocuted and hooked up to this, that felt extraordinary. Whereas right now it feels like, yeah, of course there was some very incredible, beautiful experiences. Whereas like, it's like all that stuff, like I said, this is the first time that I'm actually even remembering it. This is the first time that I'm even remembering it. It's not like I sat down and said, I got to write a book about this so I can never forget it. I got to go share this with a bunch of people so I never forget it. This is the first time. It's like 2.5 years after that I'm even remembering it. Whereas you can tell I'm having troubles one, remembering everything. I've definitely left out a bunch of stuff. Two is, where does it all go? Piece by piece. But now it's like extraordinary, definitely extraordinary. You can't deny it, but also at the same time, very ordinary. Like I said, everything now is very paradoxical, where it's kind of like that yin yang kind of thing. It's like there's the positive and the negative, but the whole has both, right? It's the finite and the infinite, and as a whole, it's both. The form and the formless, and as a whole, it's both. And then when you look at that symbol, you see one is in the other. The infinite is in the finite, and the finite is in the infinite. And yet there's this knowing that you're both, and then also beyond that. Untouched. You're both mortal and immortal. You're changing and changeless, impermanent and permanent. It's this feeling of this wholeness, completeness, that seems to allow me to experience this balance that's ongoing. That's ongoing. Everything is just in balance. Everything is just in harmony, and there's no resistance or attachment to anything. Well, it's like, what could you be attached to? You're everything. You're everything and nothing at the same time. And that's where I said, like, that's where it's probably a good time to wrap up the video, because at that point, you just you don't make any sense to anyone when you're trying to say stuff like that. You're everything and nothing. And someone's like, what does that even mean? You literally need to have the experience to experience it. But that's the experience right here, is everything and nothing. That there's no, you're centered, but there's also no center. There's no center to, it's like non-local. There's a localization of the body, but there's a knowing that you're non-local. Right? So it's kind of, I don't know, what do you want to say? It's more like a deepening of that realization. It's a refinement. It's an integration. And that's what I feel like is like what's happening. It's probably still happening, because everything is infinite. So why limit it? Is this realization, this deepening, this integration is happening, where it literally took like 2.5 years for me even to say, hey, let me just share this. So if you have been patient enough and interested enough to watch it all the way through, then I'd like to thank you. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Love to answer and be of any service to you to maybe help you go through it if you're going through it, or just any sort of questions. And I can definitely post some more videos if you have any questions, because I'm definitely leaving a lot of stuff out. And yeah, thanks for watching.